What's up everybody, it's Joe here with Joseph Blake Photography, and in today's video we're going to be talking about the announced event from Sony. All those cameras that we've been talking about, it looks like they're coming. It looks like we're going to get at least 2 bodies, we're going to get a lens, and maybe some other stuff. Let's jump in and talk about it. Again, I'm Joe. I am a portrait and landscape photographer here in Las Vegas, Nevada, and this is my channel, Joseph Blake Photography, where we talk about tech and news and gear and tips and tricks and reviews and all that sort of stuff. And if you're into it, I'd appreciate it if you hit the subscribe button. If at the end you think that I've done a good job, I'd appreciate it if you hit the like button. Obviously, social media links down below, as well as a list of all the gear that I use. But that's enough about me, enough about the channel. Let's go ahead and hop into talking about this Sony event and the cameras and lenses that we might be getting. So a week or so ago, I did a video here on the channel about a potential event that we were expecting towards the end of November, and we thought we'd be getting potentially the A7 IV, an update to the extremely popular A7 IV. But I also did a video a little further back on the channel, if you want to check that out, about the potential for an A1 Mark II. It's been quite some time since we've seen an A1 update, and to be quite honest, some people were thinking that maybe it wouldn't come, and that the A9 is the direction that Sony's going to be going from the kind of top of the heap flagship standpoint. So then just last week, there was a rumor that was floated that we would not only be getting 1 new camera, but maybe 2, and that we would potentially be getting a new lens. So the rumor was multiple camera bodies and potentially a lens update. So now what we have are leaked images of the Sony Alpha 1 Mark II, as well as a new zoom lens, a 24-70 f2. Now, I'm not aware that this particular lens design has been available on the Sony side of things, although Canon did release a lens like this with its mirrorless lineup a couple of years ago. And that f2 aperture is going to be phenomenal for events, portraits, weddings, pretty much everything you can think of. This is an exceptionally versatile focal range, really for any camera system. Now, on the spec side of things, we haven't seen a whole lot of change on the A1 Mark II. Specifically that the 50 megapixel sensor that we currently have in the A1 would continue to be the sensor that we would see in this camera. Now, that's not uncommon for Sony. They've done that before in previous models. So reusing the same sensor, but there's advantages to that. If you have a good idea of how that sensor operates and you've engineered ways to kind of better take advantage of that, it's just as much about having the best technology as understanding how it works in real world situations. And now that the A1 has been in the hands of photographers for quite some time, they've had probably an opportunity to fine-tune the algorithms and processes that go into the support mechanisms, like things like autofocus, low light noise management, color, and features. So still 50 megapixels, still BSI stacked CMOS sensor. One change from the last video that I did about the A1 Mark II is that the body would actually be getting an update to the A9 III style body. That there'll actually be 4 control rings for various settings on the camera, and 3 of those will have built-in locking mechanisms, which is really nice. I know there are a lot of photographers out there who really like the physical buttons and the ability to turn those dials, and you want to get those locked. Now, we talked before about the fact that this camera would be coming with a new AI chip, not unlike pretty much everything else that's out there. There are now more and more chips that are going to be coming into the products that we love that are going to add to their existing capabilities by adding more kind of neural engine-based, machine-learned-based algorithms to improve things like autofocus detection, general just speed and enhancement, as well as noise management, especially in low light situations. So I would expect all 3 of those things from this camera: improved low light performance, improved overall performance on the frame rate side of things from the current top of 10 frames per second mechanical, 30 frames per second electronic, as well as significant improvements both in the speed and the capability of their new AI-based AF tracking system. And that's all going to come from that AI chip that will be paired with the existing components of the A1. The other thing that's going to help this camera with speed is the fact that while it still is coming with CF Express and SD card slots, those CF Express are slot type A, so they can take both SD card and CF Express. I love this idea. I wish more companies would adopt this. I don't know why Sony is the only company that's doing this. I know that speed was a previous issue, but now they're going to be updated to the 4th generation of CF Express and with that A slot. So honestly, I don't know why this isn't continuing to proliferate in the industry. Same tilt and swivel display that we've seen on Sony cameras that we really, really like, as well as an added custom function fifth button that is fully programmable. Internally, it will have C2PA protection to just lock into your images the metadata to inform that this picture was actually taken by a human with a camera as opposed to being generated by AI. So while we are expecting this camera to be announced on the 20th, and we'll probably start seeing it in the hands of creators to do reviews, we won't actually see it on the market until the beginning of next year. And unfortunately, considering the fact that really nothing has gotten cheaper since the A1 was first announced, we are expecting an increase in price, probably to pay for that AI chip. And so while the current A1 is priced at $6,500, we're expecting somewhere between $7,500 and $8,000. And that 24-70 f2 lens is expected to come in around $3,000. So if you're ready to drop $10,000 for the best bit of Sony kit that you can get, I don't know. Be prepared to save, and I don't know, maybe don't buy any Christmas presents. Be prepared for your Christmas presents to come at the beginning of 2025. Now, we still expect potentially to see the Mark V with its improved higher resolution sensor and improved frame rates. But I don't have any new information on that one, so I'm just gonna ask you to go ahead and click on the link to the video that I did about that camera and the expected specs that we're seeing there based on a sensor release that we have from Sony that we do expect to see in that camera. The next bit of news that we got on the Sony side of things was that at this same event, we might be getting another full frame camera, kind of an unexpected update. And that would be an update to the RX1R. If you're not familiar with the RX1R, it is a full frame, high resolution, 42 megapixel, a compact, super compact full frame camera. It's got a wide ISO range, it's got great dynamic range, and it shoots in 14-bit uncompressed RAW. It can shoot in continuous 5 frames per second with continuous autofocus. And one of the kind of interesting specs of this camera is that it has a variable low-pass filter. So you can change the low-pass filter based on whatever it is that you're shooting or the conditions that you need it for. And it's got Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, NFC, right? It's packed full of modern tech. But it looks kind of like an old school style rangefinder, and it's very small, but it's still full frame. Now, one thing that makes this particular camera, I guess, kind of single-minded or single-focused is the fact that the lens, which is a 35mm f2, cannot be removed. So you wouldn't consider this an interchangeable lens camera or a mirrorless camera. This is more like a point and shoot. And it does come with a 35mm equivalent f2, but it's full frame. The other downside is that the current model, the Mark II, doesn't really do a whole lot on the video side. It's kind of locked to full HD. But rangefinder style, point and shoot style cameras are making a huge comeback right now. And they're very popular with young folks getting into photography and cameras for the first time. They're super cool. And while this camera isn't cheap, it's over $3,000. Picking it up, I mean, honestly, if you said, what's the one lens that you would need on a full frame camera if you could only pick one as a prime, and I'd probably say a 35mm with a really shallow, I'd probably say a 35mm with a super wide aperture, and that's what this has. Again, it is for a very particular type of need, like travel photography, street photography, that sort of stuff. But it looks super cool, and it's really tiny. So the rumor is that we're going to be getting an update in a Mark III. And I would say that, honestly, if you took the existing camera with maybe even the existing sensor, just keep the megapixels at 42, that's super high. Maybe improve the video side of things to at least shoot in 4K 24, as well as adding some of the AI features that we're seeing in other cameras, or maybe that we're going to be seeing in the A1 Mark II for things like autofocus and that sort of thing. And if you really want to blow the doors off, do some kind of simulated film mode like Fuji does, and honestly, I think you've got yourself a winner. So the event is the 20th through the 21st. We are expecting at least the A1 Mark II. We've seen pictures. We're going to be getting this 24-70 f2 lens. We may see the R7 Mark V, and we may see this RX1R Mark III. I'll keep you posted as I learn new things, but if that's the kind of thing that you're into, learning this type of information, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the subscribe button, hit the like button if this was informative to you. Again, social links down below, all the gear that I use for both in the studio as well as when I'm out reviewing products and doing photo adventures, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks.